This episode is brought to you by Hyperice, the leader in advanced warm-up and recovery technology. They have tons of innovative products, like Venom-heated wearables to help soothe sore back muscles, Normatec compression boots to speed up recovery and increase circulation, and Hypervolt massage guns to improve mobility. Loved by athletes like Naomi Osaka and Erling Haaland. Try them yourself. Get 10% off your order with the code MOVE at hyperice.com.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Stephen Kreisik of the Lotto Jumbo team as well, and Adam Yates of Orica Green Edge, and Anthony Turgis, who had a little bit of a tumble as he headed in towards Scarborough but stayed on his bike.
Great Britain have won their first medal. It was Adam Peaty in a world record time, breaking his own world record.
She punches the air and she crosses that blue finish line. The world champion of 12 months ago, who finished second here last time around, has won it.
The athlete's village is not a place for fighting. I've never heard that ever in Olympic and Paralympic history.
This is Anything But Footy, the Olympic and Paralympic podcast covering the games all the time rather than once every 4 years. I'm John.
And I'm Michael, and coming up in this episode, an Olympic champion joins us to talk Team GB, rediscovering the love of her sport, who her inspiration is, and whether she's thought about a second Olympic sport like a certain Sky Brown.
Skateboarding is so bloody hard. That was genuinely the first thing I rode at a skate park. I learned to drop in. I could do a rocked fakie. I'm definitely nowhere near competing with Sky Brown.
Charlotte Worthington, the BMX freestyle superstar, on being back in the British team for the European Olympic Games in Poland later this month. 177 others are joining her with Team GB. We'll let you know who.
Are we going to name them all? That would take quite some time. We'll round up the other Olympic and Paralympic headlines in our news from the Games. We've got news about para-athletics, Diamond League, Taekwondo, diving, hockey, canoe slalom, sailing and tennis. As ever, you can let us know what you think. Get in touch anytime. Find us on Twitter at AnythingButF. John does a sterling job across the socials. You can find us at Anything But Footy on Instagram and also on Facebook. And check out our latest blogs on all things sport, audio and radio, anythingbutfooty.com.
Yeah, not bad for a veteran. We'll talk about that in a moment. But never heard of the European Games? Well, they are coming up in Krakow in Poland. Effectively, they are the European Olympic Games. You know, we have the Youth Olympic Games, the actual games. Well, these are the European Games, and they started in 2015, and this will be the third edition of the Games. Around 7,000 athletes from 48 European nations competing across a 12-day sporting programme, and 178 British athletes will be representing Team GB. Let's go through some of those headlines then. BMX Olympic champion Charlotte Worthington, as we've heard, she will be competing. Modern pentathlon gold medalist from Tokyo, Jo Chung. Double Olympic gold medalist Jade Jones in Taekwondo, and Rio 2016 canoe slalom gold medalist Joe Clark will be some of the British big names in action.
And the European Games pretty late to the party, if you like, because every other continent has their continental games, and Europe was the last one really to kind of catch up. So we're looking forward to it. The third one, as John said, lots of other Tokyo medalists selected too, including, and we'll talk more about Taekwondo later on in the podcast, but Bianca Cook, Bradley Sinden and Lauren Williams. Bianca won a bronze in Tokyo, Bradley and Lauren won silvers. Matt Coward-Holly, shooter, won a bronze medal in Tokyo. He's involved in the European Games. Canoe slalom athlete Mallory Franklin, who won a silver in Japan, also selected. And Declan Brooks, who won a bronze also in BMX, like Charlotte Worthington, part of this Team GB for the European Games. Some other names we're familiar with as well. Marcus Ellis, a badminton player, who won a bronze medal in Rio. Grace Reed, the diver, two-time Commonwealth Games gold medalist. Amber Rutter, you might remember her as Amber Hill, agonisingly missed out on Tokyo, where she was a hot favourite for a gold medal, but had to pull out because she contracted COVID just before leaving for Japan. And Liam Pitchford and Paul Drinkle, two table tennis players, making their third appearance at the European Games.
They're making their third as a big welcome to the first ever Team GB breaking competitors. Yes, of course, break dancing, or breaking as it is being branded, making its debut in the Paris Olympics next year, and we'll see a couple of Brits in action at these European Games. B-boy Karam, who's otherwise known as Karam Singh, and B-boy Sonny Brummett as well. They're both on Insta, and we follow them as anything but footy. I think it's going to be really interesting over the next 12 months to see how they get on, and could they go to the Olympics in Paris in a year's time. And Ranujo Tomlin is the first male athlete to represent Team GB at artistic swimming. That's synchro to you and me. He's one of 12 named by British Swimming, with a number of different pairings and groups. Kate Shortman and Isabel Thorpe, the 2020 Tokyo duet pairing, contesting the duet technical and free events. And they won a bronze medal, actually, at the recent Montpellier leg of the Artistic Swimming World Cup. So in form, those two. Tomlin will team up with Beatrice Crass in the mixed duet.
And this is how much I love my sport, because you know I love artistic swimming. You know I'm a fan. I became a fan in 2012 after following the British team there. But I also love my boxing. And from the sublime to the ridiculous, you might say. GB Boxing, a record 6 medals at Tokyo 2020. Names like Lauren Price, Fraser Clark, Ben Whittaker, Galalia Fai, Karis Artingstall and Pat McCormack all won medals at the Olympic Games, all going on now to having professional careers. So we've got 7 men and 6 women named by Team GB for the European Games, including 7 Birmingham 2022 medalists. Delicious Uri, Lewis Williams and Reece Lynch all won gold in Birmingham. You've also got Kieran McDonald and Taylor Bevan who won silver. Another couple of guys added to that squad, the 2021 European champion Haris Akbar and the featherweight Jack Dryden, who will be a newcomer. And then as far as the women's team is concerned, Rosie Eccles, gold medalist in Birmingham at the Commonwealth Games, is named. Demi Jane Retson, who won silver in Birmingham. Charlie Davison, who's aiming for her second Olympic Games, making up that team. Kerry Davis, Shona Whitwell and Elise Glynn.
Another great sport is rugby sevens, and we know that Britain has come together with bringing England and Scotland and Wales working more each year rather than just coming together for the Olympic Games every 4 years, and delving into that Team GB Rugby 7 squad. 5 women in the 13-strong squad who finished 4th in Tokyo, agonisingly 4th, I think, for the second Olympics running, hoping for the European Games glory. Abby Brown, Megan Jones, Jazz Joyce, Emma Urin and Lisa Thompson, who was a reserve in Tokyo. They are all back in this squad for the European Games coming up later this month. And 3 British men who also finished just outside those medals 3 years ago, another 4th place in the Rugby Sevens. Alex Davis, Ross McCann and Max Farland are in the squad.
So Krakow hosting. Poland is the host nation. 21st of June for the set through to the 2nd of July for the European Games. Get the dates in the diary. We'll be covering it here, of course, on the podcast. A huge event, as we've mentioned. Qualification for Paris in archery, artistic swimming, boxing, breaking, canoe slalom, diving, modern pentathlon, rugby 7, shooting and table tennis. Ranking points up for grabs as well in the sports of badminton, BMX freestyle, fencing, mountain bike, taekwondo and triathlon. So a big landmark event on that road to Paris 2024. 7,000 athletes, 48 nations competing. Look out for the European Games. Now, she was one of the stars of the Tokyo Olympics. A huge favourite here at home for her gutsy performance. An Olympic champion and, dare I say it, a national treasure. But more importantly than all of that, one of the presenters of the Anything But Footy produced radio series Cooler Runnings, which was broadcast on Talk Sport in 2022. It was the Winter Olympic preview series. Now she is back with Team GB, and I'm delighted to say that joining us on Anything But Footy is Charlotte Worthington, the BMX freestyler, back in the kit. Congratulations on the selection, Charlotte. Now, first question. Did it feel very familiar for you putting that Team GB kit back on?
Well, thank you very much for that intro. That was amazing. It feels great to be back in the Team GB kit. Coming from a very different place than the build up to Tokyo, definitely. But I'm always so proud to wear Team GB and represent.
What does it mean to you to be going then to the European Games? It's the third edition. It's not like the Olympics. It doesn't have that heritage, that history. But how important a competition for you is it?
Well, it's important in the road to Paris. It's definitely a big contributor on the qualifying towards that. So that's important. But you say it doesn't have any history, but Team GB has lots of history. Sport has lots of history, and we're making this brand new thing, the European Games. It's kind of a mini Olympics, and that's so exciting to be a part of that. So regardless of whether there's kind of the history or not, it's really cool to be at the forefront. Some of the first riders competing at the European Games for Team GB officially is always so exciting, and to be able to give BMX that profile. We've got a great team with us going. We've got Sasha and Holly for the women's, who are kind of newbies. They bring something really different. And the men's, we've got Kieran, Declan and Sean. Declan you've seen before at Tokyo, he won bronze, and we've got a really strong squad going for Team GB, so it's very exciting.
You went to Tokyo, obviously, Charlotte, as a kind of like the first multi-sporting event. But of course, it was slightly different being the delayed games and so many COVID protocols. Are you looking forward to these games where you don't have to wear a mask, hopefully?
I'm looking forward to not having to do the spit COVID test every morning. That was pretty disgusting before you brush your teeth. I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, we were a little bit blessed that we had nothing to compare Tokyo to. It was our first game, so to us it wasn't anything crazy different. Paris might be feeling different. I'm sure there'll be a lot more hype. All I've heard is the atmosphere is going to be incredible. When you have a real Olympic Games, as everyone, Mark England said to me, it's just, you can't match the atmosphere. So I think BMX will have so much more hype around it, given it was such a success in Tokyo. It's visual. Everyone can get behind watching it and get excited without having to know too much about the sport. So I think it's going to be unreal.
And how are you coping with it? Because you went to Tokyo as a relative unknown, came away, of course, as an Olympic champion. You did the full 365 twist and turn that no one had ever done before. And I think even your neighbour knows who you are now from that. How are you dealing with the focus that's on you now going into these European Games and, of course, Paris, hopefully, a year after?
Yeah, well, I'm navigating it. I'm learning. It's been a very roller coaster kind of year in 2022, which was competing again after the games as the champion. There was a lot of things that I wasn't prepared for or kind of ready for, and I've learned that whole year. And I think I've got to this place, and where I'm at now, I'm being kind of open about it, but I'm just refinding the love, the why, the passion for the sport. That's honestly got to come first, because I know I've got the physical skill, I've got the determination, I've got the physical strength. But honestly, this journey is just showing me that I need to be able to have the motivation come from the right places, and then it's an infinite. It's an infinite power and supply of motivation and fire. And I'm just trying to align with that right now. Most recently, I didn't go to the World Cup, which was a couple of weeks ago in Montpellier in France. That was a really tough call. I wanted to go just to go and get the points, but then it's not the right motivation of, I want to go and do my best and know that I really can do that. So going into the European Games, it was almost a little bit of a tough decision, knowing kind of where I'm at, whether to go or not. But I think just being open about it and saying where I'm at has made it feel a lot better. I'm going because if I didn't go, then I'm kind of doing the reverse of what I want to do. I'm not going because of what everyone else thinks and what everyone else is expecting. I'm going because I want to go and represent Team GB, all my amazing sponsors, the country, the team that's there to support me. And I know when I'm happy, I'm in the best place mentally, then the physical tricks, they just come and I can absolutely smash it out of the park. But we got to get back to a position like that. And the European Games is part of that journey.
Charlotte, do we underestimate the mental toll that the likes of us and British sporting fans put on the likes of you with that pressure to deliver on those big stages?
I don't think anyone means to kind of put that pressure on. I think it's a perception of the athlete. I think, as I say, when the motivation's coming from the right place, then it's amazing. If it's coming from the wrong place, then it's short-lived. You might get some good stuff done, but you can't carry on when it's not coming from the right place, but it's not really coming from your heart and your gut. And maybe it's just BMX. Maybe it's a creative, expressive sport. And if you're riding it like a robot, then you're not being very creative. That's how I feel about it. But there's so many other athletes that are speaking out about it right now. Adam Peaty is a huge inspiration of mine to be able to speak with that, and other people that have been on the same kind of journey. And it's tricky, but I think from the outside looking in, you realize no one's really putting the pressure on you. They're only supporting, but you're putting the pressure on yourself because you want to do your best.
I wanted to ask you, and you touched on it there, about the culture then, having become an Olympic champion, of going back to your sport, BMX, where there are no rules, if you like, but suddenly you've come out of the environment where it's full of rules. How did BMX accept you back?
BMX is super accepting, and I think if anything, it's more accepting. And I was kind of reflecting on this before I came in to do the interviews today, and I was like, man, I kind of miss being a bit of a rebel and an outcast in the sport world. I'm coming in to do interviews stood alongside track athletes that are really traditional and have the science and everything behind them. And I miss like kind of being in that position. And yeah, BMX, it is so creative. I mean, difficulty, speed and height, like difficulty is not the only category that's on a judge's score sheet. Like there's so many other categories. There's so many different ways to ride a bike. You generally get rewarded for going against the grain and doing something different. So yeah, I am returning to the sport right now. I think I need to, it will go hand in hand if I stay true to my roots, be authentic, do what I love about the sport. Will go hand in hand with the training side of it, and it just becomes all empowering.
I mean, you know, Charlotte, that Michael and I prattle on about the Olympics week in, week out. But when you went back to those skateboard and BMX tracks after that Olympic success, how different is it? Because they're effectively less people around.
It's not too different. I mean, a skate park's a skate park, and I mean, it's very relaxed in Adrenaline Alley here in Corby, and also all the other facilities up and down the country, like Asylum. I love going there because it's something different. It's a different way to ride the bike. I was riding with one of my good friends, Tom Justice, the other day, and we just totally switched up like what we'd call training. And this is a podcast, so you can't see me doing the inverted commas with my hands, but we completely mixed up the session and just kind of rode bikes really differently, and it just relights that spark, and it's a mutual bond, and it's like, wow, that was sick. Like, how did you get from this side of the park like that, like all the way across it? And then it just fuels everything else. It's a knock-on effect of like, that was awesome, I want to mix it in with a 720 or a 360 backflip, which is a contest winning trick. And that's how BMX, it all comes together as that all-round sport, and that's the position that you want to be in.
Last one for me, and a bit random one. But I think you remember you telling us that you started off skateboarding before you went into BMX. That was how you got into the sport. Sky Brown is obviously in the British skateboarding world. She won a gold medal only last weekend. She's also in the England surfing squad, and hasn't ruled out going to the Olympics as a surfer. And previously, of course, she was a skateboard medalist. Is that something that you might consider doing? You talked about the love of the sport earlier. Have you thought about actually going back to your real roots?
Skateboarding is so bloody hard. I originally did scooter riding, skateboarding. Yeah, my brother did skateboarding. That was genuinely the first thing I rode at a skate park. I learned to drop in. I could do a rocked fakie. That's about it. I'm definitely nowhere near competing with Sky Brown. She's amazing. And I did see on BBC Sports Personality a year or two ago that she was looking to do the surfing, and hats off to her. She's incredible. But no, BMX really seems to be the thing that has stuck. Even if scootering went into the Olympics, I don't think I could go back to it. I'll still have a bit of fun on it every now and then. But then the fun lasts about half an hour, and then I'm like, I want to ride my bike again.
So last time you were named by Team GB, we were in Manchester at the velodrome, sat in the centre of the velodrome, and we had a chat then. And you said, I've got a trick up my sleeve for Tokyo. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is. You did it, second time of asking, as I recall. What have you got up your sleeve then for the European Games? And are you going to tell us this time?
Well, clearly the plan wouldn't have worked if I'd have told anyone. So keeping my cards close to my chest. But I think, honestly, going into the European Games, I'm just going to try and have as much fun as I can riding my bike. Whether that means big tricks or not, we'll see. We'll see in the preparation over the next couple of weeks where it leads us. In the long run, there's definitely a lot of ways that we can improve the runs and the riding, and that's really exciting to think about how we can do that. But yeah, I'm not revealing any of my secrets.
Well, it's fantastic to chat with you again, and thanks so much for your time, and congratulations again on being named by Team GB.
Thanks very much, guys. It's an honour to represent Team GB once again.
Charlotte Worthington not really giving anything away about what she's got planned on the BMX in competition, and you wouldn't have expected her to there, and also not quite wanting to go back to scooting or skateboarding, a bit like Sky Brown with her surfing. And actually, I see that Sky Brown is, as I said in that interview, in the Surf England squad, as well as the British skateboard squad, which is quite incredible. Nicola Adams, Duncan Scott, Jade Jones were among Team GB's medalists at the other European Games that have already taken place in Baku in 2015. So Jason Kenny, Chelsea Giles and Lauren Price, as Michael mentioned earlier, were successful at Minsk in 2019. It'll be interesting to see the new names for Team GB that come out of these European Games ahead, of course, of Paris 1 year later.
And just while we're talking about BMX, we should just mention Bethany Shriver as well. World Cup in Tokyo just taken place. 2 wins in 2 days for Bethany Shriver, so congratulations to her. We will have more news from the Games very shortly. This is Anything But Footy, the Olympic and Paralympic podcast. Stay with us. We'll be talking Taekwondo, we'll be talking torchbearers, and we'll be talking tennis, all on the way.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
This is Anything But Footy, the Olympic and Paralympic podcast. Now, the search is on for 11,000 torchbearers for the Olympics and Paralympics. That is some search, and I bet we still don't get selected. The Olympic flame will arrive in Marseille on the 8th of May 2024. It will spend 2 months journeying throughout France. Now, they're looking for people with the following values. So, can you tick these, John? Energy of sport. No. Energy of the regions? Not really. Energy of the community? Well, maybe. Each torchbearer will be an inspiration in their own way. It will, of course, as we recall from the torch relay ahead of London 2012, be a brilliant showcase for France. It will show off various towns, cities and villages. It will go to all the different regions. And that selection process has started already. Now, I nominated you to carry the Queen's baton ahead of the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. We're still waiting to hear, I think. So maybe we should nominate each other to be a torchbearer for Paris 2024.
Indeed. I think we maybe should. Week ago, we were talking about the start of the French Open and saying that there weren't any British women in the singles draw for 14 years. 1 week on, There's no British men left standing at all in the singles because Cameron Norrie lost his third round match at the end of the first week. He'd never been past Roland Garros' third round, and amidst he felt flat and disappointed with his own attitude in the first 2 sets of his defeat. He lost to Italian number 2 Lorenzo Musetti 6-1, 6-2, 6-2 in just over 2 hours, and missed out on the chance then of playing Novak Djokovic. Earlier in the tournament, Jack Draper also retired injured on debut in round 1, and Dan Evans lost on the opening day. So not great for British tennis. Focus will switch to the grass court season, which I'll talk about in a moment, but just on French Open generally, the straight sets win for world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic continues. They can meet in the semi-finals, and it looks like Sabalenka and Swiatek remain on course for the women's draw as well. They are the big names in the French Open. But the grass court season is underway, and former 2-time Wimbledon champion Andy Murray and British number 2 Dan Evans will be playing the Lexus Surbiton Trophy this week. I'm told that 15 of the world's top 100, that's not a massive amount, but anyway, they will be there, along with some of the best women in the world, including the Brits, Jodie Burrage, Harriet Dart, Katie Boulter, Katie Swan, and Heather Watson, hoping to do better. The difference is, of course, they will be at Wimbledon because they'll get wild cards, but you'd hope that they would have the next few weeks to get in the right form and hopefully go a little bit further in Wimbledon than we've seen so far at the French Open. All this as we're delighted, Michael, to be covering Wimbledon.
Who else is going to be at Wimbledon this year, John?
It's going to be us.
Who's got a wild card?
Definitely not, fortunately. But we're doing it for the first time for Radio News Hub, the commercial radio news group that provide bulletins in the UK and Europe and the world for radio stations right across that. We'll be there right throughout the fortnight. There is much more on our Wimbledon Wonderland blog, which you can check out at anythingbutfooty.com. But that did make me laugh, the press release that got sent out, which was really nice to have a press release sent out about you. And they describe me as an experienced radio broadcaster, which I'd like to think I have been, and covered tennis and Wimbledon in previous incarnations, and obviously was there for Andy Murray's success in 2012 and 2016 in Rio. But then one of the websites wrote it up and described me as a veteran. A veteran!
I will be providing your tartan zip-up booty slippers for your 2 weeks at SW19. I will bring you a blanket, and I will ensure that you have a ready supply of biscuits as well. No, in all seriousness, fantastic. Really looking forward to working with Radio News Hub, who have really been kind of mixing it up as far as radio news across this country and across Europe and across the globe in the last few years. They have, from a standing start, really established themselves, and this is a big step for them. We've worked with them before at the London Marathon, and we're really looking forward to augmenting their coverage for their client radio stations with providing coverage from Wimbledon, which John will be leading, and I'm looking forward to augmenting.
If I can walk, of course.
So I wonder where you put your Zimmer frame. That there will be a particular place near the. Hopefully you'll get a seat near the entrance. That's all I'm going to say. Let's move on. Taekwondo, the World Championships have been taking place over the past week or so. Pretty successful as far as GB Taekwondo is concerned. Alia Powell won a third consecutive world bronze medal. Now, Bianca Cook, who was Bianca Walkden before getting married, was looking for an unprecedented 4 golds at 4 World Championships, but it was a bronze medal for her. So 3 golds and a bronze at World Championship level, 2 Olympic bronze medals as well. Bianca Cook really wants that Olympic gold medal. That's what she will be targeting in Paris. Also a silver medal for Rebecca McGowan. It's the 2nd World Championship medal for the Scot. And 1 gold for Bradley Sinden, his 2nd world title, to add to the Olympic silver medal that he won, of course, in Tokyo.
And slight progress for GP Taekwondo, because I remember talking to Paul Buxton, the CEO, after the last World Championships, which were obviously delayed in the end of last year, weren't they, Michael? And he was saying we really wanted a gold medal, so they got that gold medal this time, GB Taekwondo. And, of course, we're 12 months away from Paris, so still a chance to develop there. Talking of Paris, 7 reigning Paralympic champions and 9 debutants for Great Britain will be named, or have been named, by the British Athletics for the 2023 World Para Athletics Championships in Paris, taking place next month, July 8th to the 17th. The World Championships the first to be held since 2019, will take place a year ahead, of course, of the Paralympic Games, which are being held in Paris for the very first time. Reigning Paralympic champions Jonathan Broome-Edwards, Hannah Cockcroft, Aled Davis, Sophie Hahn, Owen Miller, Dan Pembroke and Thomas Young are all competing at the Charlotte Stadium next month.
In athletics, then, we'll stay with that. A new world record at the Florence Diamond League for Kenya's reigning world and Olympic champion, Faith Kipyegon, in the 1500 metres. It was a time of 3:49.11, so it broke the 3:50 barrier for the very first time. Laura Muir of Great Britain finished second in that race. Unfortunately for Dina Asher-Smith, she had to pull out of the 100 metres, suffering from some cramps whilst on the block, so really pulled out at the last possible moment. In the men's 100 metres, Fred Curley of the US won in a time of 9.94. He's unbeaten this season, but he hasn't yet had that match-up with Marcel Jacobs of Italy. He is still missing with a back injury. Staying with athletics, the London Diamond League is approaching Sunday the 23rd of July. They've been announcing some more names taking part in that event. Femke Bol, the 400-metre hurdle athlete, won a bronze in Tokyo, silver in Oregon, two-timer European champion, confirmed to race. We already know that Sharika Jackson set to line up against Dina Asher-Smith in the 100 metres. That will be a test for Dina against the three-time world champion. Also, Grant Holloway, the two-time 110-metre hurdles champion, is there, along with Jasmine Sawyers, the European indoor gold medalist in the long jump. And whilst you're at Wimbledon, I'm going to be in Manchester for the British Athletics Championships, because confirmed, whilst you're covering Wimbledon and the tennis that weekend, I will be covering the athletics for Talk Sport on the weekend of the 8th and the 9th of July. Looking forward to that.
Are you a veteran yet?
No, younger than you. Well, whippersnapper.
On to our news from the games, the rest of our news from the games. We mentioned him earlier in the podcast as well. Joe Clark, the Canoe Slalom Olympic champion from Rio 2016, won silver and bronze in two Olympic events at the World Cup in Germany over the weekend. He came third in the kayak cross on the last day in Augsburg, having grabbed silver in the K1 slalom. Olympic silver medalist Mallory Franklin races in World Cup 2, which is coming up this weekend in Prague.
It's been a busy time if you're in the naming department at British Swimming, because 25 different British divers have been named this week. That shows the strength in depth, doesn't it, at British Swimming as far as diving is concerned. We've already heard that 14 have been named for the European Games in Poland. The other 11 have been named for the World Aquatic Championships in Japan, which takes place, as far as the diving is concerned, between the 14th and the 22nd of July. Now, 8 of those 11 won European or Commonwealth Games medals in 2022. The team includes Olympic champions Jack Law and Matty Lee. Also there, Andrea Spendolini-Syriacs, Lois Tolson, Noah Williams, Anthony Harding and Dan Goodfellow. These will be names that should be familiar to you. It's a debut World Championship appearance for Kyle Katari, with Yasmin Harper and Jordan Holden also in the team after their performances at the British Championships. Harper won 3 springboard golds at Nationals. So yeah, as I said, tremendous strength in depth as far as British diving is concerned, and without Tom Daley, of course.
And British Swimming have also named Hector Pardew, Leah Crisp and Amber Keegan for the marathon team for the 2023 World Aquatics Championships, which take place in Japan, of course, as we know, in July from the 15th to the 20th. That is the marathon dates. The Aquatics Championships last around 3 weeks because you have all the swimming and the diving, as Michael's mentioned. The trio all finished in the top 20 of their 10-kilometre events at the recent World Aquatics Open Water World Cup in Sardinia.
I like the high diving. Have you seen that? That's part of the World Aquatic Championships. Not part of the Olympic Games, of course. But
you mean off a cliff or something?
Yeah, well, no, I think at the Aquatic Championships they do it off some kind of big, tall board. But yeah, it's essentially cliff diving at a World Championship level. It's really good if you get the opportunity to see it. It's got that bit of jeopardy, which I think all sport sometimes needs, doesn't it?
As a veteran, though, my heart might not be able to cope with it.
The latest round of Pro League hockey action took place in London at Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park at the Lee Valley Stadium. GB women lost 3-0 to Belgium. The men went down to Belgium 3-2 as well. The men also lost on penalties to India after a 4-4 draw. There was a minute's silence ahead of that match for those affected by the Indian train crash. The GB women were in action in their opening match of the weekend. They beat China 4-3.
We did an episode a few weeks ago on the podcast called The Most Famous Belgium Sportsman Ever. Well, it looks like hockey are on their way as well if they had a double victory over Great Britain. So interesting times in the ahead of Paris, I think, Michael, with the French really pushing, obviously, because they're hosting, but lots of other European nations who want to make their mark in such a close home games.
Yeah, and I think we'll see the likes of Belgium. I think we'll see the likes of the Netherlands do very well at the Olympics. And obviously we saw how well Italy have come through as well, didn't we? Obviously a couple of gold medals in Tokyo in track and field. We saw the joint one in the men's high jump. We saw the 100 metres champion that we've already mentioned as well. So yeah, I think you're right. A lot of European countries, like Great Britain, will really be targeting Paris.
Now, for much more, you can check out our sporting calendar and for all our latest blogs as well on the website, anythingbutfooty.com, and you can get in touch anytime. Anything But F on Twitter or Anything But Footy on Insta and Facebook. We said at the start that Team GB had named 178 athletes for these European Games later this month in Poland. I reckon we've named around 50 to 60 of them in this podcast. We wish them all the best of luck, and we will be covering them. Of course, you can see the full squad as well on our website and on social media. It is Anything But Footy.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.